You have these vanity van cultures now. Me and Hasni have worked in places where we didn't know where to go for a nature's call. But our biggest support system used to be our light man, our cameraman, the camera assistants, the spot boys, and the generator vans. And we would change, we needed to change. There are no vanity vans, we are shooting in an outdoor, light ja rahi hai, film khatam ho rahi hai, khatam karna hai kaam. And there would be these two light men or two costume assistants or even assistant directors for that matter. They would hold two bed sheets or two lungis and say, "Aap andar change kar lo, hum log dekh rahe hain aapko." And we would be so comfortable changing because हमें पता था कि वो लोग पलट के देखने वाले नहीं हैं. So that very safe and secured atmosphere was something we all grew up with.
So Hasni ji,
Just adding to what you said about a train's set. In a real train, my cousins put on their socks when they're sleeping in the night because they don't want to know. They don't want people to know there is a woman sleeping in the berth. I was like shocked because I grew up in a safe environment like the one that you're talking about. And then my cousin who travels from one city to the other, she says, I don't take off my socks because I don't want anyone to know that there is a woman sleeping in the berth.
So, Bhumi, there is a lot of talk about how do we create an environment which, where women feel safe, whether there are safe spaces, and listening to all of you, it looks like the film industry is one of the safest places for women to work. And it has been empirically because Suhasini ji and Kushboo are from the time, as she said, there was no vanity van culture. Is the vanity van culture a problem where we are culturally becoming different? Everything is a 30-second story. Everything is out on social media. Is that, or there is a generational change of how women are portrayed and how they are looked upon?
Ma'am, I think even today, it's so refreshing and it just makes me feel so happy that things were so wonderful back then because I don't know a lot about how it functioned then. But even today, digressing a little from the question and going back to what Imtiaz commented on, there are so many times that we are on a set and we aren't wearing something that's the most comfortable. And if the costume assistant has to come and maybe fix a mic or fix us, everybody turns around because that's basic respect, that's basic etiquette, that's how it's supposed to be. So our sets are so safe. There are so many times we don't really have any fixed hours when we are shooting, right? 2 to 2 भी होता है, 4 to 4 भी होता है. सुबह के 4 बजे आप आरे से वापस घर जा रहे हो. And every time I ask my team, because I have some wonderful women that work with me, and I ask them, I'm like, will you guys be okay? And they are so sure and confident because they're like, yeah, we'll be okay. मैं Light Dada के साथ, we are a team, we all are going back. So while they are on set, they are safe. The scary part is what happens once they leave that safe environment. That's what scares me. I have a little cousin that lives with me. She moved from Delhi over here because her parents were so petrified that how will she travel from Gurgaon to DU every day? That's how petrified they were. She was moved to Bombay, but with the way everything that we've been listening to, just the atrocities, the violence against women and how gruesome everything has become. When I was growing up, I never saw my mom worried. I could come back home at 1 a.m. and yes, I would have calls because I have broken curfew, but those calls weren't because my daughter is not safe. Again, maybe being born in a city like Bombay is major privilege, but I always felt safe. But I don't feel like that about my younger cousin that goes now. Post 10 o'clock, I'm like, okay, will she be okay? The rules are so different. She is growing up in a different world than I did, and we are 8 years apart. It's not as much. So I just feel like it's so unfair. And again, sorry I digress, but coming back to your question, I don't think vanity culture is the problem. I feel like why shouldn't there be comfort? The fact that there wasn't a place where women or even men, where people could go to the bathroom is not okay. I feel like that is changing and this is how it should be because yes, our work is very demanding and it's very tough, but basic necessities and basic rights to a toilet or hygiene and sanitation should be there. But having said that, the whole 30-second life, real culture, etc. I don't think that has anything to do with how gruesome our mentality is becoming. You know, the disconnect, the power play, I feel has always been there. But our industry has always been in focus because we are glamorous and, you know, we are more gutsy with the way we dress. We are more opinionated. So wherever there is opinion, there will be like pushback. So I feel like we are always in focus. But if I kind of step back and I see, I'm like, no place is safe. No work environment is safe for women. Our environments are very safe. I think the conversation should be with everybody in this room. We all have family members that are not within the industry. What are we doing for them and for their environments to make sure that there is some kind of safety and protocol that is maintained?
See, there is a difference between other industries and the film industry, because in other industries you go to work and then come back home. But what happens with films is that about 200, 300 people move to a new place and they live there as a family. Sometimes there are lines that are crossed, willingly, unwillingly. We are talking about lines of when it's crossed unwillingly. You know, that is when I think it's very important. So in a unit, in a normal unit, because we are all producing films and we are watching who are these 200 people who are there, and there will be, you know, certain aberrations. There will be some people who will take advantage of the fact that they are away from family, and there are younger people who are in the industry who are not very experienced about how the industry functions, so they might take advantage. Okay, so I asked my husband this morning, so what do you do? So he gave me a name of a person that we threw out of our set because he crossed a certain line, and after that he said, most of the people should be thrown out, he said. If 200 people are going to be in a village, new village, without any rules, there will be lines that are crossed. That is where the problem is. I think even in Malayalam industry, it's the same thing. In Tamil films, we go back home to Chennai. In Telugu films, we go back home to Hyderabad. Kannada films, we go back home to Bangalore. Hindi films, you go back home to Mumbai. But in Malayalam films, they don't go back home because there is no particular place. It could be Trivandrum, it could be Calicut, it could be Cochin. So there were lines that were crossed. You know, so that is what we have to address now.
You know, something that I have noticed, right? Like recently, even within our fraternity, a couple of years ago, there was this movement that had happened and people were called out. And what I feel is that, okay, you take that first step where you make sure that person is not on your set, but that person will be working on some other set. And he will still get work. And people will still be associated with him. Even though, and everybody knows, right? Like within closed doors, everybody knows. So how, like, what are those strong steps that we can take that when there is a true perpetrator, that person is punished?
We both know what is possible, but Imtiaz, can you tell us, you know, if there is a perpetrator and there is a violation of crossing lines, how does a film unit react to it?
There have been 3 people that I have sent back in my life, and from different sets, from different places. I'm happy that it's only 3. And sometimes some of my movies have simulated the older times. For instance, we did a movie called Highway, where we were on the road constantly. And so we had to, again, go behind the makeup. There was no makeup van, we just cars and a generator van. And mostly there was not generator van also. So even for Nature's Call or to change, Alia had to be taken. And sometimes we would be at certain spots where it was not possible for anybody but maybe the guy who's holding the cutter, maybe the cameraman or myself or the actor, Randeep, to be the people to give her that safe space that we wanted at that point of time. But there have been these 3 unfortunate incidents. You know, I feel that there is this umbilical cord between society and films. Society and films can't exist
Independent of each other.
Independent of each other, they influence each other. I do feel, Bhumi, that the portrayal of women in cinema has been changing over a period of time, positively. There are some movies that we can go back and watch, and I don't want to name them, but there are instances
This
in
is
my
exactly
mind.
what I was anyway coming to, and quickly I want everybody to respond. Imtiaz, portrayal is a very big, so it's also a kind of a knee-jerk reaction where people say, oh, you know, women dress so badly and they're so badly portrayed. So if cinema is reflecting it, society is only reflecting it back. And this is a conversation that has been happening for decades. When Suhasini ji was making films, Kushboo and now Bhumi and you, this has always been there. What is it that we need to be conscious about the portrayal part, which also becomes a point of reference? Because as Bhumi says, the set is safe, what is happening outside? And the outside says, you are responsible for it because you are the one who was portraying it. So this becomes a bit of a catch-22. What do we do to create, again, a safe space, an aesthetic space when it comes to what we are reflecting as far as women is concerned, and how conscious we are of that change?
You know, I feel that one must look within themselves, being a man or a woman, but I can talk from a man's point of view, that we go on an outdoor shoot, let's say Suhasini ji. Just because we are not with families doesn't mean that we can start crossing lines. You know, it should be that I or any man is in a place where he can do any evil. Nobody else is going to stop him, except for his own conscience or his own sense of propriety. It is so stupid to cross a line with a girl where you might actually be on the other side with her consent, with her willingness, with her participation. So I feel that, yes, this is something very cultural. We carry it amongst ourselves. If we try to portray in our films false values, values that we don't feel but we feel will make us look good, that also doesn't look true. That also looks like artificial. So I feel that one must look into themselves. And yes, things change. I feel that when I was born, when I was growing up, this country, or this world maybe, was a bit sexist by comparison to now. This is what I feel. I've seen, let's say, in the by-lanes of Amritsar today, small girls in scooties going around at night. 20 years back, this was not the scene in those same gullies of Amritsar. Like I would hardly see a woman going out. So things are changing, and that is also changing because generations over generations, parents of like my generation or previous have given the ability to their girls to do this despite knowing that people from their generations would perhaps like look at them wrong, etc., etc. So that courageous battle at every step is being fought, and that representation, that is affecting the representation in cinema. That is positive, but I feel that we cannot be tolerant to a gender injustice at workplace. I think the tolerance has to be zero. There has to be no question about it. Because it cannot be that, somebody who is a part of the team, who's come to give their everything to the film. When we are working, we cannot work with barriers. It affects our performance at any level. We have to be open, we have to be vulnerable, we have to be romantic, we have to look good. All of these things have to happen. At that point of time, no one should think that they are going to be like misused or somebody's going to take advantage of it. Tolerance has to be there. Tolerance has to be zero about this.
I think a round of applause for such a courageous statement coming from
I'm
Imtiaz.
not saying this.
No, really, it's true. But on portrayals, I quickly want, because there are a lot of people who want to ask a lot of things. Suhasini ji, Kushboo, Bhumi, portrayals, what are your thoughts about how portrayals are very much a part of this safe space, that we are trying to, speak of here?
I think it's a double-edged sword for me because I feel like art should not have boundaries. There are characters that are flawed, and they should be represented on screen. But having said that, I also feel like we as a society don't necessarily take the right messaging out of that portrayal. For example, there have been times where, like, you know, in songs, they're like, oh, the hero is going to come and give you a little whack on your backside. And I'm like, no. Because this might be fun for you, but I know there'll be 10 other young boys that'll be doing it thinking, "Arey, ye kar sakta hai, to hum kyun nahi kar sakte hai," right? So it is also about just the dignity with which you portray women on screen, right? There can be flawed characters are very important. How can we remove flawed characters from our narratives? But I feel it has to be done in a way where your audiences understand it, and I just feel like India is very sensitive in general. But as Sir said, that yes, on set, no kind of injustice should be tolerated. But I just feel like I'll speak for myself, as an actor, I feel like it comes with a certain responsibility of the way for example, I don't play any character that doesn't have agency. It is very simple. I've been offered really large projects, and I know those films are going to go and make like triple digit crores and crores, but my character doesn't have agency, so I will not do it, because that's what I resonate with, and I want to leave behind a legacy of cinema that girls can look at and feel empowered, and that's my journey. Kushboo, Suhasini.
See, I have done all kinds of roles. I've done films which have portrayed women in the most powerful roles, but I've also done films, the early stage of my career, where probably I was just a glamour prop doll in the films. So I'm not going to complain about it. It was a personal choice. You have to make a career, and probably if I'm offered a film with a big hero where you're just a glamour prop doll, I wouldn't back out and say that no, because I was not in a position to do that. But today, yes, I don't do films. In the last 25 years of our marriage, how many films I've done, if you ask me? Hardly 10. Because I think I am in a position to choose and decide what I want to do and the kind of films I project on screen. It's not about how I am going to be projected on screen or what the audience is going to think. I think as a very, very responsible mother of two young girls, I think it was extremely important for me to understand that what am I going to teach them? I don't want my girls to turn back and look at me and, ask me, Amma, what the hell were you even thinking when you were doing that? Yes, there have been a couple of films which, fortunately, they have not seen all my films. But there are a couple of films which probably they see there's something going on in television, and now the YouTube sab aa jata hai. So they were like, what were you even thinking? I'm like, okay, guys, that was then, not now, not anymore. I think it's very important to understand what are you going to leave behind. As a producer, my husband being one of the most successful filmmakers of Tamil cinema, we personally, yes, we make very, very entertaining films. We are not here, I'm not going to shy away and say that I'm here to do a social work. No, we make entertaining films, but we do it with responsibility. We understand what is required, what is important, and I think we, all of us, have to come together and understand that what we are giving back to the society. But I also would like to add that, blaming the cinema industry and saying that, अरे हम सिनेमा देख के बिगड़े हैं, we need to understand that everyday newspaper में जो news आती है ना, वो पढ़ के हम script लिखते हैं. So that is where it starts. So blaming the industry is something like you want to just brush off your problems, brush off, your probably crippled mindset and किसी और पे blame डाल दो. You don't want to be responsible for that. I think we write scripts what we read on in the newspapers and जो हम news देखते हैं. That is where we get inspired from to write scripts. So I think it goes. We all have to collectively come together and understand what are we going to leave behind.
I think I was very adamant. I said no from the beginning. I think the problem with young girls who come into the industry is that they don't know how to say no. And in a typical film set, whether it's in the south or in the north, I mean, when you're an established heroine or a hero, the hero comes in, looks at the scene, and there is a discussion of 15 minutes on how to change the scene to suit him. It's never the same for the heroine. It's never, because heroines are supposed to be obedient. You're just supposed to listen to the scene and rehearse your line and perform. So I think when I was in 25, I realized that, hey, if he can discuss argue, I can argue too.
Yeah.
So I started arguing and I said, I don't like the scene.
Which means the power of negotiation always lies with you.
With you.
That negotiation you should never,
The obedience
put
has to
joy.
be put at home and in school,
Fantastic.
not in the set.
Brilliant. I know you have loads of questions, but one little advice from me, do not give opinions. Keep your questions very short. I have barely 10 minutes because there is a session which we have to start on time next because it involves some international guests, otherwise I would have gone on. Is the mic there? Where is the revolving mic? You have. Wait, sir, wait. Where is the mic? Where is the mic in the audience? Yeah, quickly come to her. Please do not give opinion. Please ask one small question and allow them to answer.